Suspenseful, sexy, dazzling, a fantasy like you've never read before, a shadow daddy like no other. One of the most talked about books of the year, Fourth Wing. Hi, Percy, welcome. Honestly, if you haven't read Fourth Wing, you've seen it everywhere, especially with Iron Flame coming out. Oh, okay, well, let me get rid of that. That's embarrassing. Hold on. Especially with Iron Flame coming out in November, Fourth Wing has been a topic of discussion. Is it worth reading? Is it even any good? I'm kind of late to this bandwagon because this originally started in July, but here we are. And honestly, if it wasn't for the hype, I'm not sure if it would have ever made it out of TBR limbo for me. I'm a girl who loves dragons, but it didn't entice me. I don't like war colleges, personally, but everyone's talking about how it changed their life, it saved their mother, it made them believe in love again. So I was curious, especially after seeing all of those tattoo TikToks, you know what I mean? It's the book that changed my life. 2 hours after reading it, I immediately got a tattoo. I wanted to know. I love dragons. I love tattoos. Was I going to want a tattoo after this? I needed to know. Now, originally, this was just going to be a review on my Instagram. A pretty picture, a couple paragraphs, bandwagon, jumped, you know? And then I started reading, and then I was having a good time, and then I started thinking, and now here we are. And so I wanted to start a series called Book and Cook. A title a little misleading, considering today we're not actually cooking anything, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. A series where we talk about books in depth, while then cooking a meal that is inspired by said book. I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be cozy. Is it an original idea? Absolutely not. Do I care? Absolutely not. But I thought it'd be kind of fun, especially for this one. Again, like I said, it takes place in a war college. About a third of the way into the book, I was like, Rebecca Yarros is absolutely a military brat. I flipped to the back. Not only is she a second generation military brat, but she is also married to a veteran. So I thought it was only fitting that I did my first Book and Cook with Fourth Wing while eating a Marine MRE. Military. How fun. I thought it was fitting, personally. Percy, how do you have an MRE? Well, I'm glad you asked. Rebecca Yarros is not the only person with a partner that is a veteran. And if any of you are nerds, I got menu 10, chili and macaroni. That's the one my partner said was the best one, so. Correction. It is the most liked MRE, not my partner's favorite. Warfighter recommended, Warfighter tested, Warfighter approved. That's the same thing as a Dragon Rider, right? So this is the main meal for today. I look pale. I'll just be pale. I'll just whitewash myself. It's fine, I guess. Originally, for the dessert, I was going to do an orange sorbet, inspired by Violet, who tries to kill someone using an orange. We'll get to that later. But it's cold, and so I don't want to. I have the oranges frozen, and I still might try it later. I might put in a clip of me eating it, but right now it is freezing. I also was going to have a fun sparkly drink. It's been replaced with fun sparkly tea. It's a raspberry tea. For anyone wondering, why is it red? Because I put strawberry syrup in it, because I like things sweet. But it still has gold sparkle. Yes. Inspired by Andarna. I realize I've never said her name out loud. So first, we're going to start with a spoiler-free review. Completely spoiler-free. In case you hear this and you're like, oh, well, maybe I do want to read it. Especially now that the second one's out. And I've heard very mixed reviews on it. This video was originally going to be before the second one came out. But I have chronic pain. And it's been hard to sit. So if you see any awkward cuts, no, you didn't. I didn't need to lay on the floor. And like I said, I've been seeing some mixed reviews. Some say it's a 5-star, it's just as good. And I've also seen 1-star reviews. So if this story, the first one, if Fourth Wing tickles your fancy and you think you might like it, I kind of want you to read it blind and then come back. Or consider mute the video, go read it, and then come back and start it over. Personally, I think it's worth a read to read blind, like fully blind. I read it fully blind. I saw like a hint of a spoiler, and I was like, no, I don't want to know. I need to come to this conclusion myself. And it was fun. I think it was worth it. Long story short, I'm going to give you a spoiler-free review. So if you feel a kindred spirit in this book, you can go read it without any spoilers. So we start out by following our main character, Violet Sorengale, on her reluctant journey to become a writer. TM. At a war college where she falls in love with the bad boy. And there are dragons. Yeah, that's it. At its core, that's kind of it. Now, the reviews that I've heard of this book most is, this book has completely changed my life, or this is the most unoriginal story I've ever read, full of tropes. And I believe the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But I think that's why it works. And that's why this story has hit a chord with so many people. Oh, it's hot. Okay. It reminds me a lot of Divergent and Hunger Games and Harry Potter in a sense. But now it's written for new adults. So instead of someone going to a boarding school for the first time or making the first choice that will impact the rest of their life, they're 20. And they're making the second choice that will impact the rest of their life, which is a big difference. And it hits every single story beat that you know it's gonna hit if you've read anything in the past 10 years. It's predictable in a way, but that makes it satisfying to read. And that's why you see those TikToks of, what crack did they put in this book? My friend has moved in 6 hours. You can fly through this book. It is satisfying to read, and you can drill it out in like a few hours. But I don't think that's a bad thing. And I know a lot of people do. Again, with the unoriginal, tropey reviews. A lot of people were unimpressed when they first read this. But what I think makes this book so unique, in my opinion, is its representation and how that fits into the tropes that we already know. How it subverts that expectation of things we know and make it just slightly different. Make it slightly for a different audience. And I think the biggest compliment I could give this book as a person of color, even though I don't look like it right now because I'm so fucking washed out, but I am a person of color, is that I didn't feel like there was a diversity checklist that the author was just going down and making sure they checked every single box. And that's not to say that there isn't a list. There absolutely is a list that you can write out all of the minority groups that we're representing, and you can make your way down the list as you read. But it never felt like it. It never felt like someone writing from a place that they didn't know. It just felt like a white person writing about their friends that just happen to be brown. And I don't know Rebecca Yarros, but she is white presenting, at least. I don't know her. She could be a million different things. Who knows? But again, white presenting. And just writing about their brown friends that they know, which is all I can ask for, honestly. It never felt like she was trying to write a stereotype or a character that was unfamiliar to her, or to put herself in the shoes of a group that she didn't represent, which I appreciate. My personal favorite part, and the part that I think strikes a chord with so many people, is the disability representation. Our main character is disabled. She's disabled the entire book. She gets accommodation, but she's never treated as something that needs to be repaired or is useless. And I'll be real vulnerable with you for a second. I'm dealing with a lot of severe nerve pain, especially in my leg. Think it's officially categorized as chronic pain at this point, officially. So I can't really sit for more than 5 minutes at a time, maybe stand for 10. And on top of that, I've always just kind of had something wrong with me. I'm always just like a little broken. And so coming across this book when, especially at like the height of this chronic pain journey I'm on, was just really refreshing. And of course there are other books that exist that have disability representation, that have better diversity, that are better than Fourth Wing. But none come to mind at the moment. None have completely taken over the way this one has. And I think that's one of its strengths. Having these very, very familiar tropes then turned on their head just slightly with its representation. The same way this book reminds me about a lot of really popular young adult books, just slightly changed for an older audience. I, unironically, called myself fragile, even before my chronic pain kicked up. And so to see a heroine who also struggles and who gets accommodations, like, it's just really refreshing in a way. And you can very easily see why so many other young women see themselves in Violet and why they've latched onto this character. And so I would rate this book, I'd rate this book 4 out of 5 wings. 4.5 out of 5. Feeling generous today. I don't think it's revolutionary in many ways, but that's what I think makes it so revolutionary at the same time. I think it's worth a read, personally. Even if just to say when book 5 eventually comes out, and by book 5 I mean probably book 15, if they keep selling the way that they do, just to say when that book comes out that you read the first one, you were there at the beginning, you read at the peak of its hype, and it's a weird flex for anyone. It's just a weird flex. I will say, there are multiple explicit sex scenes written with the intention of exciting the reader, and there's some graphic violence, so if you're thinking about buying it for someone younger, maybe don't, but who am I to tell you to do anything? I'm just a crazy person on the internet. Now that's out of the way, let's get into it. Oh, there's a chunk full of glitter in my mouth just now. Okay. We're gonna pretend I did that with my big, strong hands. I'm so big and strong and not scared of the steam. It smells fine. That's pretty good. It's like surprisingly good. I expected that to be so much worse. It is nice and warm. I'm so cold. And then we have cheese spread with jalapenos, which I thought would be fitting, because then it's spicy, like dragons. That is purely processed cheese. I keep looking at my partner. My partner's behind the camera. That's spicy. That's fun. Okay. Bop. Am I gonna shit my pants later? Maybe. Who knows? This is surprisingly good. I've just been eating. Okay, so we follow our main character, Violet Sorengale. She's 20 years old, and I freaking love her name. If you haven't got it, Soren, like flying, Gale, like wind. It's silly, and I love it. It's very akin to how I name my own characters, so one after my own heart. So we follow her as she enters the Rider Quadrant. I am going to be looking down at my notes because I can't pronounce any of these words. I need you to know this. I read this in the privacy of my own mind. I have no idea how anything's pronounced. She enters the Rider Quadrant of Basgaith War College. So she can enter the Nevere army as a dragon rider. The elite of the elite. Now what I like about her is she's a reluctant hero. She doesn't freaking want to be here, which I relate. She was originally training to enter the scribe quadrant and to be a scribe. Think like historian, librarian, nerd.
Sit down.
Yeah.
I thought you weren't gonna hate it. And that's why when you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna eat it, and I'm like, you're probably gonna eat it. Like, you're probably gonna munch on it.
Well, so I thought I was gonna be way too full.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because again, these are meant to sustain you. They're meant to fill you. I'm just a little girl eating a snack. I don't need to be sustained. But she wanted to be a scribe, like her father. But after he died, her mother, General Sorengale, said, fuck that. No. She decided very last minute that Violet was going to be a writer, like her 2 older siblings, Mira and Brennan, who is also dead. Like any good character, half of her family is dead. I thought I was going to spill. Now, Violet is a self-described fragile human being. She is chronically ill with what I and many others assume to be Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Might also pronounce that wrong. I'm so sorry. It's a very real condition. It might be the one that Rebecca Yarros has. I couldn't find the name online, if that's confirmed what she's diagnosed with. None of my business. But I know the author is chronically ill as well. And if you don't know about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it's a very real condition, which many people suffer from, where the connective tissue that holds joints together is a lot looser. It's very painful, and the joints can dislocate a lot easier. She's essentially real squishy and real fragile. So it's very reasonable. No one wants her to be a writer. She doesn't want to be a writer. Her best friend doesn't want her to be a writer. Her sister doesn't want her to be a writer. No one wants her to be a writer. They all think she's gonna die. Because not only is it really dangerous, like I said, elite of the elite, it's also very physically demanding, which isn't something that Violet excels at. And so it's really dangerous. It's a very real possibility that Violet will die before she's ever made a rider. And because of that, Mira comes swooping in to be her savior. Or she tries to. She comes in, she tries to change her mom's mind. Mira herself is a very decorated war hero. She has, she has a Talon of Honor, which just means that she's a certified badass. So she comes in, yelling at her mom, trying to make sure her sister stays safe and stays alive. Her mom says, go fuck yourself. No, she's going in. So Mira does the next best thing that she can. She tries to equip Violet with as much knowledge in as short of time as possible. She brought with her a dragon scale corset vest, which I almost wore a vest for this video. I made it myself 2 Halloweens ago. It's not dragon scale by any means, and it's kind of falling apart. She has this dragon scale corset vest, which she tells Violet, never take off. Even when you are sleeping, make sure you have this on. A lot of people will actually draw her with like a sexy corset, like her boobs are kind of out, which is weird. Don't think that's what this is, but you know, go off. Draw your fanfiction. It's also, this vest is also very important. It's the first of its kind. Mira made it herself with the scales from her own dragon. She found a rider whose signet, I think that's how you pronounce it, signet, is shrinking things. Which we learn later, the signets are like reflection of who the rider is. We'll get to it. We'll get there. There's a lot of stuff going on. So what does that say about that rider? I mean, I think they can also make things large, but like, what does that mean? So it's a really unique piece that she's wearing. Mira also completely repacks her bag, because whatever they bring in to the quadrant, that's it. That's all they have. Whatever they can carry on the back. Violet can't carry anything. She's very small. I think her pack was like a 30-pound pack, and she like could barely carry it upstairs. So she teaches her pack lighter, pack smaller, only bring the necessities, which means that she does have to leave behind a really valuable book that her dad gave her, which was really sentimental to her. But she had to leave it behind in lieu of packing something more useful. She picks poisons, clothes, and wraps and bandages to take care of herself. She also teaches her how to braid her hair. Okay, Katniss. But it's because Violet refuses to cut it. Again, she doesn't have the highest self-esteem. It's not like super low, but it's not the highest. And she wants to hold on to her hair because even though it goes silver at the ends, it is thick and healthy, and she thinks it's the only healthy thing about her. So, you know, I get it. I'm also attached to my hair. Instead of shaming her or forcing her to cut it against her will, Mira teaches her how to braid it and take care of it so it doesn't get in her way. She also gives her a new pair of shoes because Violet was wearing scribe shoes, incredibly slick bottoms. Bitch gonna die. And the last piece of advice she tells her before walking her to the Rider's Quadrant, to stay away from Xaden Riorson and to find Dane. Xaden, local bad boy. Xaden is the son of the leader of the rebellion that Violet's mom squished and executed. So, a little bit of tension. And then Dane, closest thing Violet has to like a childhood best friend. Dane is the son of someone Violet's mom's worked with. If you're into war politics, you would love this book. That's not me. Keeping people's names straight, I'm here for the dragons. But anyway. So Mira, in doing everything she can to try to keep Violet alive for as long as possible, she is so sure that Xaden is going to kill her as soon as he can, and that Dane is going to be her only chance at staying alive, because no one believes that Violet can do it on her own. And so to enter the Rider's Quadrant, the first challenge they have to pass is the parapet. Now, some people draw the parapet as like a big stone bridge that fades off into nothing. A real parapet is the top of a wall.
Yeah, it's the fortifications, yeah. On
Cool.
A medieval castle, yeah.
Cool. In the book, it's tall, it's skinny, it's made of stone, and it's raining today, so it's slippery. And all the new recruits have to walk across it to prove their worth. The idea being, if you can't balance on this, there's no way that you can balance on the back of a dragon, and so you don't deserve to even try. Kind of harsh. And so Mira has crossed this already. She's already done this. She's a rider. She's badass. We know. So the entire walk over to the parapet, she's just telling Violet, don't look down, check your center of gravity, it's gonna suck, make your way across, don't make friends. Trying to give her as much information as possible. as she walks her to what could be, realistically, what could be her death. And like Mira's a good older sister. She hugs her bye. It's very sweet. I got a little emotional, even though we're only like 10 pages into the book at this point. I love older siblings. I just love older siblings. What can I tell you? And so on their way up to the parapet, after Mira has dropped her off, said bye, she had all the boys gawking at her because she's gorgeous and also a war hero. And so after Mira dropped her off and said bye, Violet is on her own. And this is where she meets Rhiannon. In my head, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I just call her Rihanna. We're gonna call her Rhi from now on. I believe it's pronounced Rhiannon. Someone correct me, please. I'm not gonna go by the audiobook just for the name pronunciations. You can't make me. But anyway, she meets Rhi, and they're fast friends, even though Mira told her not to make any friends. But this is the first time that we see Violet's true character. On the walk up, on the stone steps, she hears Rhi's shoes clicking, and she realizes, oh, this girl's gonna die. It's raining, it's slippery. If she is slipping and tip-tapping in here, she's gonna slip off the edge of the parapet. And she has this inner battle of, do I help her, do I not? I'm not supposed to make friends, but she's really nice. What am I supposed to do? But as they reach the parapet and she sees it for the first time, and Violet sees the danger for the first time, she turns to Rhi and demands to switch shoes. Rhi is confused, but she's able to convince her, and even though they are not the same size, they make it work. So at least they both have at least a shot at making it safely to the other side. This is also where we meet Jack. He is a strangely bloodthirsty recruit, kind of for no reason, like almost to a comedic degree, and it's explained as him being like ruthless. He's gonna do anything he has to get to the top, to be the best rider. Especially because every year, more riders join the Riders Quadrant, and less dragons are willing to bond. Because you can only become a rider if a dragon chooses you. So every year, less dragons are showing up being like, I will take a rider, but more riders are coming in. And so Jack is like, I will do anything to get me a dragon. I need a dragon. And there's this perception that the dragons value ruthlessness. They want the most bloodthirsty recruit. They want someone as vicious as they are. Keep that in the back of your brain. But honestly, Jack kind of feels like a jackass just for the sake of being a jackass. Like, it's excessive. He sees Violet and it's on sight. He's like, I don't like you. You're too small. You deserve to die. Like, he kind of reminds me of the kid in PE class that takes this, like, way too seriously. But now imagine if that kid was allowed to kill people. That's Jack. He, like, has this perception that she's a threat because she's a Sorengale. So, just by her name, she can be a threat to, his ranking in the dragon race. But then later, he's like, oh, she's also just, like, a small, frail girl. So now she's a threat because she's small. And, like, the idea of the weakest link. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and he sees her as the weakest link. He just wants to kill her. He's just looking for excuses to try to kill her, honestly. And so, they're going across the parapet. She's seeing people fall off. Left, right, center, behind. And then here comes fucking Jack, running behind her, throwing people off the parapet to try to get to her. Insane man. But she does manage to get across safely. She also, my queen, manages to threaten him with a knife at the edge of the parapet. She gets there first. He's right behind. She just goes, wham! And he's stuck. Because where else is he gonna go? She is stabbing him in the balls. But because she's a protagonist to a book and like a good person or whatever, she doesn't push him off. She lets him live and lets him join the life of the other writers. This is also where she meets the most gorgeous man she's ever met. Hi, Xaden. And now, okay, before we move on to Xaden and all his stuff, I want to talk about this because I thought it was weird. It's just okay for like a cadet to kill another cadet unless they're in formation. I think that's weird, personally. Because like you're still on the same side. You're still on the same side. You're on the same team. You're both dragon riders. Like they're training for war. There is an enemy. There is something else. You know what I mean? Like why? They can just kill each other unless they're in formation. Then it's considered dishonorable. I don't know. I just can't help but wonder. But like the guy that's killing people left and right in boot camp, like do you really want him? I don't know. I can't imagine you want him as a battle buddy. Anyway, so yeah, Violet, Ree, and Jack all make it across and are officially first years. And Violet immediately tries to go find Dane. And now Dane is a second year. So Dane didn't know that Violet was joining the Riders. He's only a second year. And when you're a first year Rider, you have no contact to the outside world. Your whole goal is to focus on training. You're not writing to your family. You're not doing anything. Which sucks for Ree because her sister is pregnant. And so she won't get to talk to her for a full year. And she won't get to see her little nibbling. Which sucks. But so Dane has not talked to Violet in the past 6 months. He just became a second year. And so he is shocked, appalled, and scandalized that she is there. The second he sees her, he's like, we gotta get you out of here. We gotta get you to the scribe quadrant. I can sneak you out. We can just pretend that you never made it and that you were there the entire time. Now, he has good intentions. He knows how delicate she is. He knows how hard this would be for her. But he keeps pushing even after she says no. And she says no not because she suddenly wants to be there. No, she's like, my mother will find out and she will put me back here. My best luck is to just try my best. I just need you to help me. And he doesn't listen. He's like, no. We can get you out. So, not great. Kind of telling. And now Violet has a crush on him. She's had a crush on him for a while. So she doesn't super see the red flags of him not listening and him being really pushy. But like, good flag. But I want you to keep that in mind as we continue the story. And now that Dane can't send her back, he does the next best thing and he picks her for his squad. He picks her and Ree to be in his squad. Now, I had to draw an image of how these squads work, because I couldn't keep this straight in my mind. Again, I am not a military girly. I'm not. Even though I don't care if you see me occasionally in Marine getup. That's not me. So I had to draw out what the squad layouts were. And I found an even better picture from Reddit for you, in case you also don't know. Here you go. So now, originally, Dane was under Second Wing. But that's not the title of the book. It's not called Second Wing. So what happens? His entire squad gets moved to Fourth Wing, under Xaden's command. Conflict of interest. But he is the wing leader of Fourth Wing, so they have to do what he says. He is in charge of charge. Because of course he is. This is also where we see the dragons for the first time, and I do have to say, it's pretty badass. I really liked it. I really like the intro to the dragons. We see them swoop in. They sit on the big wall. They scare the shit out of people. People pee their pants. People die. People try to run. It's really fun. I really like how they see the dragons for the first time. And I personally really appreciate that people are dying from page 3. You know what I mean? Like, it really sets the stakes. That you can be introduced to someone, and the next page, they can just be gone. So, we are officially first years, yay! And classes start right away. No rest for the wicked, am I right? And from the get-go, Violet is bad at this. She is not good at most things, honestly. And again, there are more riders than dragons. People are ruthless and want to be riders and will do anything to get to the top of the class. Because if more people die, then there are more dragons for the rest of us. So, you know, that's fun. I do like the stakes. I like that they can die. We know Violet's probably not gonna die because she's the main character, but like, she can get fucked up, you know? But from the get-go, it's super obvious. This is shockingly good. I've eaten most of it. But from the get-go, it's incredibly obvious that Violet needs help. She needs help in combat, and our girl Ree is really good at combat. She comes from a village on the border of one of their nation, and so from a very young age she's been taught self-defense, just in case there are enemies that cross lines, children, people want to give their children a fighting chance. And so, she is good at combat, and she promises to help Violet in exchange for history lessons. Because while she's good at combat and physics, weirdly, she can't keep dates straight in her head to save her life. And Ree, as we know, because she was going to be a scribe, is a nerd. And thus, a best friendship is born. And this is one of my favorite parts, personally. Violet knows that she can't win in combat. She can't win in the sparring match. She can't win in the pit. She can't do it. So what does she do instead? She starts poisoning her opponents. And honestly, I respect the hustle, man. You gotta do what you gotta do to stay alive. I say as I drink my sparkly tea. Violet is just trying to get from one day to the next. She doesn't want to be the top of her class. She just wants to stay alive, which is another thing that I think a lot of people relate to, just trying to make it to tomorrow. And so, the only reason Violet knows how to do this is because of the book of Brennan, which I don't know if I mentioned, but her dead brother, he wrote a book for Mira, a book of advice, because he couldn't send her letters, so he wrote her a book to give to her because he knew she was going to be a writer next. So it's a lot of little tidbits, little secrets to help his sister be better. In that book, originally it actually says that Violet will never read it because she wasn't meant to be a writer, and then she's sitting there reading it with not only Brennan's notes, but also Mira's, as her siblings try everything they can to get her out alive, which is just very sweet. One of my favorite things is at the beginning of the chapters, there are little quotes, either from fictional texts in the universe, or from the book of Brennan, from a letter, or from a history text. I just think it's really fun. It lets Brennan be a character, even though he's not there, which I think is cool. I really like it. It's just very sweet. And so Violet, while she can't use her Baron to get ahead, she can use her noggin. And one night, she's out collecting poison, like a little menace, and she comes across something interesting. It's Aiden, who would have guessed. He's having his save the cat moment. She stumbles into the Mark 1 meeting. He is meeting with other children of the rebellion, like him. People whose parents might have tried to overthrow the government. They're called the Marked Ones, because someone used dragon magic. They're all physically marked. Either on their hand, on their neck. They're all physically marked as rebellion children, which is fucked, because they didn't do anything. But they're all marked so you can differentiate them at a glance, and they're not allowed to meet in groups over the size of 3, in fear of a rebellion brewing, a new rebellion. But our girl finds a group of 5 hanging out in the shadows. But like I said, there's Zayden's save the cat moment, so instead of what she thought he was doing, which was start a new rebellion, being really shady, teaching people how to kill, he's there giving them advice, because school is scary, and they need help, and Zayden's the eldest. We'll learn later, he's the eldest of all the Marked Ones. So everyone who's coming into the Writer's Quadrant, because they all have to come into the Writer's Quadrant as punishment, which is fucked, they're all coming to him for help, because it's scary, and it's isolating. And so they all kind of look to him as like a big brother or a big cousin, and they need advice. But of course, our girl does in fact get caught, because Aiden's supposed to be good like that. And this is where we learn about his signet. He has the power to control shadows, because of course he does. And so he finds her because he can like feel her in the shadows or whatever. But she promises to keep her mouth shut because her mind's been changed. Maybe he's a good person. She wants to give him the benefit of the doubt. He didn't do anything wrong. And she's like, you know what? I didn't see nothing. I don't know nothing. This is also, I want to take a moment. This is also where we hear how Zayden has the most beautiful black eyes flecked with gold. Which I know is supposed to be like dark and mysterious. But all I can imagine is it's kind of goofy. I won't lie to you. Like, it's kind of goofy looking. It's very fan-fiction-y. And all that comes to mind is like those black marble countertops with the gold veining. Yeah, it's not hot. I'll tell you that, it's not hot. It's not cool, it's not mysterious. It's kind of goofy. But Violet thinks he's hot, so he's hot. Whatever. Time to open my next thing. And this is the vegetable crackers. I'm really excited for these.
Give me half. I don't want to be eating. That's the thing. I don't want to be messing with your audio.
Eat, baby. It's fine. Okay. We got the crackers and a meat stick. Nice. More protein. So, Violet starts training for the gauntlet. Now, the gauntlet is weird. In my head, it's just Wipeout, but made out of wood. And I think that's what a lot of people think. It's kind of gross. I'm gonna eat it anyway. But just know it's kind of gross. So, it's an obstacle course made out of wood. Goes up a cliff, and you end at the top. Now, I imagine Wipeout, but made out of wood, with a little bit of American Ninja Warrior sprinkled in there. But the idea is it's meant to mimic what it's like to be on the back of the dragon. You have to scale, you have to run, you have to jump, all on this big thing that's moving. I think it's cool. The justification's really cool. It's a fun concept, and people die. So, you know, 2 of my favorite things. Now, there are safety ropes while they're training, I will say, which is less fun. I do like that they make a point, like someone asks, why is it called the gauntlet? It doesn't look like a gauntlet. And the teacher responds with, well, they called it that once and the name stuck and we haven't been able to rebrand, which I appreciate. Sometimes you just want something to have a fun name, and I respect it. And so while you're training, if you fall, there are safety ropes that you can like grab onto. This is growing on me. The more I eat it, the better it gets. But there are safety ropes that if you fall, you can grab on and like pull yourself back up. People still die. More people die during like actual gauntlet day. But our girl, Violet, now she's a preemie baby. She's real petite. She's real small. But so she's too short to finish the gauntlet. She's never made it to the end. She's never been able to get to the last obstacle, which is the on American Ninja Warrior, the ramp that they have to run, climb, and whap at the very top. It's that thing. She's never even made it there. And she also knows she is too short to get to the top, even if she does make it there. She's never made it up what's called the chimney. Now, if you're expecting me to explain to you what the chimney is and how it works and what it looks like, I cannot help you. No one can, apparently. I've Googled it. I've gone to the Reddit pages. I've gone to the fan art. No one knows what the chimney looks like. I imagine it's like there are two walls. They have to like spider climb up, but she's too little to reach. I don't know. If you find fan art that accurately describes what the chimney looks like, let a girl know, because I don't know. She uses a rope to somehow Mulan her way up there, somehow. But she does it. Rebecca Yarros needs to hand draw what the chimney looks like for all of us. But anyway, Violet makes it up somehow and takes off running, and she goes up the ramp. And again, it's made out of wood, and she knows she can't make it. What does this girl do? She pulls out a knife and jams it into the top to hold herself up. Even though she couldn't reach the top, she reached it far enough and she was able to like swing her way up. How much force would be needed to get the knife deep enough into the wood to hold up the weight of an adult woman? I don't know. And I don't care. It was cool as hell. But not everyone thinks so. Amber, wing leader of Wing 2, which again was Violet's original wing, says that she cheated. She's cheated. You can't use anything other than your own person to finish the gauntlet. It's illegal. Well, our girl Violet is a nerd and starts quoting the Writer's Codex at her and tells her, these are the knives that I brought myself. I brought them over the parapet. I brought them in. They were on my person. They are considered part of my person. If we remember, it's the same knife that she used to threaten Jack's balls. Now, this causes a huge divide. Some people say she's cheating. That doesn't count. That's not what that rule means. But no one can really prove her wrong. The letter of the law is that she brought those tools in. They're as much of a part of her as the clothing on her back. And so, she passes the gauntlet. She does it. Despite all odds, our girl does it. She loopholes her ass to success, and I respect it. And again, just to show, Violet is never a thriving hero. She never gets good. She gets okay. She is just surviving one day to the next. The epitome of you don't have to be the fastest. You just have to outrun the slowest. That is Violet. And I respect it. And since she passed, she gets to go with the squad to the parade. They walk in front of the dragons. Like, all the dragons that are willing to bond are there looking down. And each squad individually walks and presents themselves as candidates. Which, this is a detail that I actually really like. Humans don't matter in this scenario, like, at all. Dragons matter. Dragons are the one who make the final call of whether someone is good enough to bond with or not. And I think that's dope. And now a few kids, they get charred, but like... And this is also a unique experience because for the first time, a Feathertail appears. Wait, hold on. A little gold dragon is at the end of the pitch. Just sitting, watching, just curious. Now, dragons are broken up by their tails. A Feathertail is known to be a pacifist. They are known to never enact violence. They don't kill people. They are small and they are soft. They got little paws instead of claws. And so no one is impressed by the Feathertail being there. No one's like, oh, I want that dragon. everyone's like, oh, that's weird. That's suspicious. And a few of them, Jack, is like, it's useless. No one want to pair with that. Shut up, Jack, bitch. They never bond with humans. So they just assumed, it's just being nosy. Alright. We'll ignore it. But now that they've done the presenting, those who have passed have passed. We are at the threshing. Where they release these children into the woods and hope for the best. Which, kind of fun. Now, like I said, dragons are the one who do the calling. The humans don't matter. So some humans can already feel the call happening. They can feel it like a little itch in the back of their brain. I know my dragon's out there. I know I'm gonna get picked. I just gotta find it and live. Like, Rian, our girl, Ree, she's hearing that call. She tells Vi that she has a bit of a suspicion she might know who her dragon is, which is very exciting. But Violet feels nothing. She is convinced no dragon's gonna pick her. Because again, she's working under the notion that dragons want the big, strong, ruthless riders. So she's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna go and hope for the best. Like she does with everything. So as they're going, Violet overhears Jack and a couple other boys talk about how they want to hunt down the Feathertail. They've seen it in the forest with all the other dragons, and they decide it doesn't deserve to live. Serial killer behavior, but go off, king, I guess. They rationalize it saying it's the weakest link. If it was to bond with anyone, a human can't say no, and it's just gonna make that rider useless and weak, a detriment to the rest of the wing. So they can't allow it to live, apparently. Now Violet, also being small and soft, immediately empathizes with this dragon. She's like, that's fucked. I can't let them do that. So despite being outnumbered, she follows. And her intention is never to fight the boys. She knows she can't win, but she wants to shoo the dragon away. Because maybe if she can let it know, because dragons can understand humans, they can't talk to someone who's not their rider, but they can understand. So she's like, if I can shoo it and let it know it's in danger, it'll fly away and it'll be safe. But unfortunately, the dragon is precious and looks at her and goes, no, I don't want to go nowhere. And just stays there. She literally just goes, no, I don't want to do that. And so while the dragon doesn't shoo, Violet realizes she has to make a choice. Does she stay and try to defend the dragon, or does she run and save herself? As the three boys enter the clearing. And so even though she knows that she is horribly outnumbered and she is outmatched, she can't do nothing. So she stays and she tries her best to fight, and it doesn't go well. And Zayden and his dragon, Siegli, in my head it's Siegel, Siegli, I believe. Beautiful big ice dragon. She's the one that like made someone piss their pants at the beginning of the book, which is really cool. I love her. They're both there, and they see Violet about to be murdered, and they can't help. It is illegal, it's against the rules for them to step in. They're only meant to observe. And despite that, we do see a little hesitation. We do see Zayden take a step forward. He wants to help our girl, because she's having a rough time. He like pulls her arm out of her socket. Her arm's like dangling there. Like, she's not great. But as he goes to step in, there's a whoosh, and there's this big old black dragon. And he tells Violet to step aside. And so she does to the best of her ability, because again, she's like a little injured. And he sets these boys on fire. He doesn't get Jack, but he gets the other two to take off running. And they're gone. And so now we have Violet, who's mostly fine. She's a little beat up, but she's used to like being in pain. So she's okay for the most part. We have the big old black dragon, who's like comedically large. She reaches his ankle. His ankle of his like front paw. Massive man. Big boy. And then we got the tiny little gold fluffy dragon, who is my favorite. And now dragons don't talk with humans who aren't bonded to them. Like I said, they can understand, but they don't talk. And so that means that big boy wants to bond with Violet. And so now, this is Terran. He is, in fact, my favorite character. He is massive. He is crotchety, and he's old as shit. I love him to pieces. Like, she gets on his back, and he literally has to use magic to hold her in the seat. He doesn't want to let her fall. And keep in mind, as she is soaring back to the field to be with, like, the other people who are down who have been claimed and bonded and blah, 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 as they're doing that, she is watching people mount their dragon for the first time, and as they take off, fall and die. Fall and die. And the dragons fly off. They go, never mind. And they fly off and they go home. So it's a really big deal that Taryn is like, no, I'm not going to let you fall. Silver one. He calls her Silver one, which is also very cute. It's a really big deal. And she is not naive to this. But they fly back, and she lands, and Taryn, other dragons reach him up to here. He's a massive boy. I love him. And he gives her his full name. I did not write it down, and I couldn't pronounce it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But he gives her his full name. Only the record keeper and the rider are allowed to know a dragon's full government name. So she goes and she tells him, and it's like a really big deal, because he's like one of the eldest and one of the most powerful dragons, and he hasn't bonded in like 50 years. It's a huge deal. And as she's giving his name, another little voice pops up in the back of her brain and tells her name. And that's how we have Andarna. And so now Violet, the runt of the litter, not only has one dragon, who's the biggest baddie in the whole wide world, she has 2 dragons. That's suspicious. That's weird. And the humans try to tell her, that's illegal, you can't do that. And she's like, are you gonna tell that to, like, the 1,000-foot dragon behind me? Because I don't think it's gonna go very well. You can try. And so, yeah. Our girl's the first one to ever get 2 dragons. Which is fun. That's fun. That's always fun. And so, once all the hullabaloo kind of calms down, Dane comes running in out of nowhere, grabs her, kisses her, and is like, wow, I can't believe you made it out alive. Which doesn't super go well. She doesn't feel anything. She kind of realizes, oh, well, Dane will forever see me as something that can break, as something that's fragile, and not as something that can learn, adapt, and grow stronger. And so he kisses her, and she's like, don't do that. Thank you. And naturally, of course, we can't have an enemies to lovers without her starting to have feelings for the bad boy Zayden. And, of course, Taryn, her new all-powerful big boy dragon, has a mate. And the only thing stronger than a human bond is a dragon's mated bond. And who is his mate? You are correct. It is Sigel. Seagull. It's Zayden's dragon. So now, they're a foursome. Violet and Taryn. Taryn is mated to Sigel. Sigel's bonded to Zayden. So now all 4 of them are connected, whether they like it or not. But that means if any one of them dies, all 4 of them will die. So, big risk, big reward. And we'll talk about what that reward is later. And again, this is good stakes. This is fun. Because, yeah, Zayden is a wing leader. He is, what, a 4th year? Like, he's, like, about to go out into the war. And dragons can't stay separated for very long. And so, either he has to leave, and he's one of the strongest recruits. He has to leave to go do the war thing, the thing that he's, like, really good at and that they need him for. And Violet, this very fragile first year, either has to come with him or he has to stay and not be used to his full capacity. But they need him on the front lines because the war's getting worse. But again, if one of them dies, all 4 of them die, and we have a glass link in here. Like, these are good stakes. We love to see it. We love angst. I do. And we also learn Andarna's a baby. I have no transition for that. But yeah, our little golden girl is a little golden baby. And that's why Feathertails don't bond with humans, and that's why they don't fight. They're not fully developed yet. They still got little kitty soft paws. They're just little babies. And because they're babies, their power is more fragile, but they don't bond because humans can suck them dry of their magic easily. Super, super easily. And so now, not only do we have a mated pair, 2 people who have the hots for each other, but now there's a baby involved. So, We love a found family. If I haven't mentioned this before, I haven't. No, I know I haven't. Humans can burn out. So a dragon will channel their power through their human. That's how the signet evolves. That's why each signet is personalized to the person, not to the dragon, because the human is like the lightning rod, the conductor. So it's unique to them. If a human tries to draw too much power from the dragon, they can burn themselves out, killing themselves. And that's how Brennan died. So that's a little awkward when Violet kind of learns that she can't call on Andarna, because they both might die, which means all five of them might die. So, stakes. But yeah, Brandon was a mender. Just gonna slip this in right here. Brandon was a mender. It's one of like the really cherished gifts. They can mend anything from fabric to human wounds. And how Brennan died was his best friend was dying, and Brennan tried so hard to mend him after he had already passed that he burned himself up raw. So that's fun. Anyway, so Violet was already a target because of being considered like the weakest link, the glass link, if you will. But now that she's bonded with like the super big, all powerful, mighty dragon, now she has even more of a target on her back. Again, humans are working under this pretense that dragons want ruthlessness, dragons want powerful humans. And so even though we hear their back and forth and how much they respect one another, it died again. No. Yay. So it's the next day. I went to bed. It was 3 a.m. Which means my whole setup is funky. It's fine. That's really great that my curls are less defined now that you can see them more. That's fine. That's great. I love that. At least you can see that this is green now. It's not black. It's green. Although I did wear black for the occasion. Where were we? So Violet was already a target for being considered the weakest link, and now she's a target because she has the biggest dragon. The idea is the other cadets that didn't bond, if they kill her, then maybe her dragon will like them instead. I don't super get this reasoning, and I think part of that is because we see inside Terran's head, so we see that he, like, respects her. Like, are the other dragons, like, mean to their riders? I don't think so. So, I don't know. I don't know why they assume that, like, you have to be ruthless for a dragon to like you. But anyway, now that our girl is officially a rider, she has her own room, she's out of like boot camp, and she's officially part of the wing, which is cool. But that also means that she's just a little bit more vulnerable because even though their rooms lock, this is an oversight. Even though their rooms technically lock, anyone who started channeling their dragon magic can do like minor magic, as in unlocking rooms. So, yeah, no, that's weird. Anyway, we're not going to dwell on that too long. She's alone in her room the first night, and she gets attacked. Literally, they try to kill her in her sleep, which is super illegal. I didn't put glitter in my thing. I forgot to put glitter in my thing. Before we continue, I have a new drink. It's in the same mug, and it's still pink for some sort of faux continuity. I could do blue, because black doesn't look good. I'll be completely honest with you. Black does not look good. Blue might be fun for Sigel. Yeah, it's super illegal for them to try to kill each other in their sleep. It's, like, considered dishonorable the same way it's dishonorable to kill someone, like, in formation. Again, why is it okay for people to kill each other anyway? Because you're all on the same team? But I don't know. I never went to a competitive school. So maybe that's just, like, normal. Maybe that's what they do in, like, Harvard and stuff. I don't know. I went to art school. But luckily, our girl is fine because of Mira. Because of that... Ooh, that's really pretty. Sparkly. Because of Mira, Violet has her little vest on. And she listened to her sister, and she kept the vest on even while she was sleeping. Which, like, good for her. I can't imagine that's super comfortable. But, I mean, if your life's in danger, I guess you'll do whatever it takes. I don't know. I like being comfortable. That's just me. I'll be completely honest. My partner's a little worried about me for how much glitter I've ingested the past, like, 24 hours. Anyway, back to our girl almost being murdered. Yeah, no, they try to kill her. She is literally only okay because of the vest that Mira gave her, and also because of the dragon bond. Taryn feels that she's in danger, feels that something is going on. He tells his girlfriend, oh, I'm sorry, his wife, put respect on her name. He tells his wife, who tells her rider, who then comes running. It's a big chain of telephone. But something funky kind of happens. Time gets a little wonky. It might have frozen for a moment. Which means Zayden gets there just in time to be the hero and to snap bitches' necks. Like, in an instant. This looks kind of gross. Oh well. Zero hesitation. He snaps a bitch's neck, which we love to see it. That was kind of hot, I'm not gonna lie to you. Drink reveal. It's now like purple. How fun. But yeah, so he gets there just in time, and we learn that Andarna can stop time. That is her power as being like a little feather tail, as being a little baby. She can freeze time for only a moment. If she uses it too much, she can die. And I think after this, she actually sleeps for like 3 days from how much it drains her. It's very, very dangerous for her to do it, but she did it to save her girl's life, which is really sweet. I also don't have anything to snack on at the moment, because I have Tootsie Rolls from the MRE. I'm not going to eat these. These are probably expired. Like, I'll eat the food that's like a couple years expired, but the chocolate, something about that feels funky. It's probably fine. But I'm not going to do it. The next day, Violet, unfortunately, does kind of has a tattletale on who she saw flee the scene last night, because someone did try to run away. One person got away, but Violet got a good look at her. And it's Amber, Wing Leader 2, who called Violet a dirty, stinking cheater. So she tried to kill her. But Zayden believes her right away, even though, like... So Zayden and Violet are, like, starting to form this mental bond. They can, like, feel each other, they're aware of each other, but they haven't gotten to the point where they can see into each other's minds just yet. But despite that, she says it's Amber, he believes her. Dane, on the other hand, does not. And in front of everyone, was like, you're a dirty, stinking liar. This girl I've known my entire life. You're a dirty, stinking liar for no reason. Which led me to believe that Dane and Amber had, like, a thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of, like, weird tension between Violet and Dane. Like, a will they, won't they, childhood crush, blah, blah, blah. I think Dane was sleeping with someone else, Amber, and then saw Violet and was like, oh, maybe I do like Violet, but I'm still sleeping with Amber, and blah, 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 blah. That's my personal headcanon. There are just some, like, lines here and there, and if I can find them, I'll put them on the screen. Don't hold me to that if there's nothing there. But there are some lines where I was like, this sounds like someone who would try to juggle two girls. You know what I mean? And so the fact that he doesn't believe this girl he's known his entire life and who he calls his very best friend ever, even though her life was on the line, and it's a really, really big statement to make, it's just icky. It's just really icky. But that's, like, an ice cold take. No one likes Dane. No one likes Dane, so, you know. And now, Dane's signet is that he can read minds, but only when he touches. He can touch your little head, and he can read all your thoughts. And now, personally, and I might do this, I might not, just as a personal project, I want to go and reread the book and take note of every time he touches Violet's face. Because he does. He'll, like, cup her face. And I want to make note of that and see how that impacts the story, if it does. Because in that moment, he would be reading her mind, you know what I mean? And when she says this, he immediately goes and tries to grab her face, and she's like, ah. Which, like, me too, I'd been like, ah, that's weird, don't do that. Also because no one knows if that's what his signet is. His signet, he has a little thing on his chest that says, like, his signet is secret. No one can know. Violet knows, but no one else does. And so I would be really interested to go back and read the book and make note of every time he touches not just Violet's face, but anyone else. You know what I mean? I don't know if he has to touch the face or he can touch their hand or something, but there's something there that could be really interesting. But I didn't do that. Not for this video. But yeah, but he doesn't believe her. He tries to grab her. Luckily, she knows what his signet is, and she, like, keeps him away from her, which is, again, just icky. It's icky. It's so icky. It's gross. He's a gross man. But Violet asks Taryn to show the other dragons what she saw that night. And the dragons tell their riders, and suddenly everyone can see Amber's face as she is standing in the doorway as they try to kill Violet. And so Amber gets executed, which isn't super sad. I'm not sad when people die. I get sad when the dragons get sad, because her dragon is sitting there and just has to watch her be executed, and he starts crying and he starts wailing and mourning, and it's really upsetting. It reminds me of a dog when a dog's in distress. And so this part I found most upsetting. Fuck Amber, I don't care about her, but like the dragon. Ugh. Apparently it's supposed to be super painful, and like some dragons, when their rider dies, they refuse to bond for a very long time. That's what happened with Taryn. He hasn't bonded in 50 years. But some of them die. Some of them can die of heartbreak. And normally, 100% of the time, if the dragon dies, the person dies. The rider dies. So they're really connected. But after this incident, Xaden to his personal mission to keep Violet alive. Because if she stays alive, then he stays alive. No other reason. He wards her doors, he gives her a bodyguard, which is Liam, and everyone loves Liam. I love Liam, he's really cute, I like him a lot. And he makes sure that she gets one-on-one combat training to give her a fighting chance. But now we gotta talk about Liam, and I love Liam. Liam is a big beefcake of a man who whittles little pieces of wood. And I think as someone who gets like anxious and flustered very, very quickly, I love me like a patient man. He's just there in the shadows, doing his duty, hanging out, quiet, steady force. We love to see. I love Liam. And personally, I think he's hotter than Xaden. I don't find Xaden attractive. I hate to tell you. I hate to be the one to bear this news to you. I don't find Xaden attractive. Liam, find hot as shit. I love him to pieces. Xaden, not so much. And I think part of it is because he is so stereotypically like a bad boy. Dark demented past. Like he's just such a bad boy. Where I'm like, oh, shut up, I don't care. But also, I had a friend point out to me that he's 23, so he would be born in the year 2000. And that just gave me the ick. So now I can't find him attractive, which is fine, because I have Liam, who's also probably born in the year 2000 or probably 2001 or something. But I'm not going to think about that. Anyway, back to Liam. He's one of the highest ranking first years. He's like incredibly promising. He's strong, he's smart, he's fast, all those things. And then he gets pulled from first wing to be Violet's babysitter back in fourth wing under Xaden's command. And he does this with zero complaints. He's like, Xaden, I got you. Whatever you need, I'm there for you. King of a man. And that's also part of like the first hint that we get that Xaden is a good guy. We've had the save the cat moment already, but he's still viewed as like this bad boy with a dark past and a shadowy blah, lives in the shadows, blah, 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 blah. But to have someone like Liam, and not just like Liam, but to have the fact that Xaden has so many people who are ready and willing to do whatever he asks really speaks to his character. And I think, for as much as I'm not a Xaden girly, I do think that Rebecca Yarros does a really good job of like seeding that out, even though we know it's coming because it's a romance novel. Of course the bad boy secretly has a heart of gold, obviously, but some people are a little bit more heavy-handed with it than others, and I think Yarros does a really good job of like spacing it out. And especially Violet kind of notices this firsthand, because now that she's bonded with Taryn, who's mated to Sigel, who's bonded with Xaden, she's just mated to Xaden. She doesn't have a choice in the matter, which is a topic for another day. But she's essentially mated to Xaden. And now all the marked ones who are willing to throw their lives on the line for Xaden are now doing the same for her. They're willing to do whatever it takes to keep her safe. And she's like, whoa, that's freaky. Please stop. But also thank you. She warms up to it. But yeah, all the marked ones closing around her, and they're like, you're part of the gang, whether you like it or not, buddy. And this super comes in handy because now all the new riders are learning to ride. They're learning to mount their dragons on their own, and Violet isn't strong enough. So the idea is, my legs hurt personally, that you can sit on their shoulders and hook your legs into like the pommel. I didn't write down the technical words. You can hook your legs into like some of the scales. There's a spot for you to go. And Violet, because of her squishy joints, can't do that. She's not strong enough to be able to hold herself in, so she falls off constantly. Taryn is totally on board to use his magic to hold her in place, but she doesn't like that. She doesn't like that he needs to concentrate on her while flying, especially because even though he is so powerful and even though he is so talented, because he is, she doesn't like being a liability to him, and so she pushes herself to try to be stronger, but she can't do it on her own. And now Imogen, one of the marked ones, another fan favorite, I think, is taking Vi under her wing to teach her some basic strength training to get her strong enough to be a decent rider. Now this is kind of funny to me because they do just go use regular ass workout equipment, but it's just made out of wood. Like in the descriptions, they're talking about how you have to hook your legs around and squeeze and you add on weights with bags. And I'm like, that's just a leg press machine, but go off, whatever, it's great. And this is something that I really like. Again, Violet isn't trying to fix herself or find a solution for her disability. She's just trying to work around it. She's not trying to be the best, she's just trying to stay on par with everyone else. She just doesn't want to fall off her dragon. And I think that's really respectable, honestly. And especially in a hero character that we're rooting for, there's something really endearing about her being bad at this and still trying anyway. And I think that's something that can be forgotten. Our hero shouldn't be great at this. That's part of the fun, you know? I think that's something that's forgotten a lot in modern media. And I also really like that Taryn, because we see other dragons. So again, maybe other dragons are just assholes to their riders. Because we see other dragons. And when people fall off their backs, they just let them fall and die and they go home. Taryn, on the other hand, respects Violet. And so when she falls, he catches her. And she, at first, she was really, really surprised. Like, why would you do this? Blah, 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 blah. But, like, by the end, she expects it. I like that they have mutual respect for one another. I think that's really fun and lovely. And so now we get to one of the first, like, saucy scenes. One night after training, Violet, she's just straight chilling. She ain't worried about nothing. But she starts to feel hot under the collar. Kind of out of nowhere. Now, Violet has... We are reading from her point of view. So she has mentioned that she is a sexual being. You know what I mean? It's not like she's not a virgin. She's not innocent. She's bang. She fucks, which is great. We love that for her. So even though she's no stranger to the feeling, she is still a little confused as to why it's happening when she's doing nothing. And so she decides, you know, it's cold outside. Let's go for a walk. Let's try to cool down. And who does she run into? Zayden. And he is sitting there, leaning on the wall, fucking smoking a cigarette. And so he tells her, if it's your first time experiencing it, you're bonded with your dragon. So when they get hot and heavy, we get hot and heavy. And you just get the second-hand horny. And it's just kind of awkward. But it's something that you have to get used to. But I can't get over that he's just sitting there smoking. He's supposed to be this, like, stupidly handsome man. He's sitting in the shadows, smoking a cigarette. And he's dangerous and sexy. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Stop. Go inside. You're 23. Shut up. And I know you're gonna say he's 23. Like, that's a grown adult one. Shut up. Or he has killed people. He's military. He has more life experience. Blah, blah, blah. He's more mature. I don't give a shit. As someone who has dated and is currently dating a military man, both things can be true. They can have a lot of experience and a lot of maturity for their age and still be dopey-ass little kids. But anyway... They're both sitting there, hot under the collar, unsure what to do, and they throw themselves at each other, and they have a passionate kiss, and they have to use all of their strength to pull away. I love it. I love the fucking angst. It's so fun. I love it. It's so good. I was giggling the entire time. I know it's supposed to be, like, really steamy, and I was like, you're kissing. So Violet is getting stronger. She's starting to be able to hold her own. She's not the top of the class. She can't, like, beat everyone. I don't think she can beat anyone at the moment, but she can hold her own. She's not the bottom. And that's what I call growth. That's awesome. I like that she's not scraping the bottom of the class anymore. She's like mid, lower tier. But she knows that she still has to face Jack. And she knows he is going to try to kill her, and there's nothing she can do about it. If he gets his hands on her, she's done for. Doesn't matter how much she's grown, he is still stronger and bigger and more vicious than she is. But, one day, she notices our boy Jackie doesn't like oranges. He keeps them off his plate at all times. He doesn't let people who have touched them get near him. Interesting. And so, when she has to face him in the pit, what does she have in her pocket? Orange powder. So, what happens when they're in the pit and they're up against each other and he has, he's gotten his arm around her neck and he's trying to kill her? She takes a handful of orange powder and shoves it in his mouth. Like, I was hooting and hollering. I was cheering. I was like, yes, kill that bitch. She doesn't kill him. But he does have a really bad allergic reaction. I don't understand why she waited for him to fully get his, arm around her neck. Because, what if she was a moment too late? But suspense. And Liam, the entire time, is off to the side. Liam just being an anxious little bestie off to the side. He finds out that Violet is gonna face Jack, and he wants to tell Xaden, but Violet doesn't let him. And he's a good friend, and he respects Violet, so he doesn't tell him until Violet gives the okay, which is literally when she's in the pit. So he only sees part of it, and then he just takes off running to go get Xaden. But by the time Xaden gets there, Jack is already on the ground. And Violet, who passes out in the pit, because again, she let Jack get arms on her neck instead of just throwing the orange in his face to begin with. She wakes up in the infirmary, and Xaden is sitting there next to her, being like, you could have died. That means I could have died. I can only look out for myself by being glued to your side. I have to be with you at all times now, for your own protection, and no other reason. But our girl is fine, for the most part. I was rooting for her to kill Jack in this moment, honestly. I think that would have been really funny if he died because of orange powder. So this entire time, while Violet has been doing her rider training, she's also been on what's called library duty. So she gets up extra early to go into the archives, the place that she spent most of her childhood and was meant to spend the rest of her life. Yeah, it's a little awkward. She goes down there every day and gets whatever the teachers might need for the day. Any mail, any maps, any news from the front. She's the one in charge of getting it. And so she volunteered for this duty so she could go down to the archives. Which is kind of sad and sweet at the same time. I think it's meant to be sweet, but it actually just makes me really sad, personally, because she does reminisce on, what her life could have been if she was a scribe. But she doesn't let herself dwell on it too long, so neither shall we. She also volunteers for it because she still is on a scribe schedule. She still naturally gets up at 6 a.m. because that's what she's been doing for years. And she gets to see her friend Yesenia. Yesenia Nailwart. Nailwart? But Yesenia is someone who she studied with before. I don't know what's the time before college? I know in real life what it's called, but in fourth wing, I don't know what it's called. But the time before they were going to go into for the official studies to be a scribe, in the tutoring session, we'll say, she studied with Yesenia. And so they're friends, which is nice. And Yesenia is deaf. Another one for the checklist. It didn't register to me that she was deaf, and that's why she was signing to communicate. In my head, I was like, no, you just don't talk in a library. Naturally, you have to sign. That's not the case. She's just deaf, and I'm stupid. And that's what I mean about the representation not feeling forced. It's cool. I like it. It's a nice little detail. And also she has a crush on Liam because she has good taste. So I like Yesenia. He has a bit of a crush on her, and he will sign to her, which is cute. I really like it. They flirt in sign language. Come on, it's sweet. I'm pretty sure he whittles her something. He gives her a little gift. I forget what it is. I don't think it's a dragon, because he does whittle everyone's dragon and gives it to them as a gift, but I don't remember what he gives Yesenia. But anyway, do you remember at the very, very beginning of this video where Rhaenyra dumped out Violet's pack and was like, hey, you don't know how to fucking pack? And how she left behind one of the really sentimental books that her father gave her as a child? Yeah, that. It's called the Book of Fables, and she asked Yesenia if she could borrow a copy. Yesenia's like, girl, I have no idea what you're talking about. That book doesn't exist. Which Violet thinks is weird, because the archive has a copy of every single book that's ever been written. So she's like, that's suspicious. Maybe I just don't remember the name. Maybe it's something different. She puts it out of her mind. Which, personally, I also put it out of my mind because I'm a little silly. But that's suspicious. That's weird. Anyway, but speaking of Mira, our squad is sent to Montserrat? Sure. It's one of the border cities of Nevers, and it's where riders get stationed for guard duty. And guess who's there? Mira. I know I've mentioned it, but like I said, when you enter the rider's quadrant, you lose communication with the outside world. You're only meant to focus on your training. So Mira actually has no idea if Violet is still alive. Which sucks. She knows that she's, like, probably not dead because they do an announcement every day at school of the people who died from the day before, and so I'm assuming there's something, like, in a newsletter of the people who died. So she knows that she's probably not dead, but, like, that's it. Imagine going a full year knowing your little sister is probably not dead. Awesome. Cool. Right on. But only that, but this is also Rhee's hometown. So a lot of reunions happen in this episode. Violet gets to see Mira for the first time, which is really emotional. It made me tear up a bit. But Rhee is also like, my sister is like less than a mile away. Like, I could see my nephew for the first time, but it's not allowed. They're not allowed to leave. So our girlies try to sneak out, but Mira, of course, badass of all badasses, who is smarter than any of them, immediately catches them and is like, what the fuck are you doing? And they're like, you're supposed to be on patrol duty. And she went, yeah, I know, but I'm not an idiot. So what are you doing? Until they tell her that Rhee wants to go meet her baby nephew and see her sister. And it pulled at my heartstrings, it pulled at Mira's heartstrings. And so Mira just goes with them. And it's really sweet. It's really sweet. It's really sweet. Rhee gets to hold her nephew. She gets to see her sister. Violet and Mira have a heart-to-heart. And then Xaden shows up. Because dragons are clingy and they can't be apart for too long. I think they're apart for like 48 hours. And Siegel was like, I miss my boyfriend. But I can't say anything because I am the exact same. But there's also the chapter where Mira gets to give Violet back the Book of Fables. But Mira's just been holding on to it and has kept it with her for when she gets to see Violet again. So she has the Book of Fables back, which is nice. This is also like peak Dane and Xaden fighting over Violet, which I think is really funny, because they're children, and Mira yells at them like they're children. They're literally having, like, a war strategy meeting. Even though it's, like, for training, you have to treat it seriously. It's a war strategy meeting. People's lives are on the line. And they're fighting over a girl. And, surprise, they get attacked mid-strategy meeting. Just as, like, a reminder, you're still in war. You can't be fighting over a girl. And everyone has to flee except for the riders who are actually stationed there. So Dane, Violet, the entire squad has to flee, and Xaden has to pull Violet, like, kicking and screaming because she does not want to leave her sister for anything. But they do make it back safe and sound, and the next chapter starts with Violet, like, waiting outside the scribe quadrant just so she can beg to hear news if Mira made it out alive. My voice isn't shaky because I get emotional from sibling relationships. Why would you say that? But she begs enough where they eventually let her know that Mira's fine. She's fine. She made it out. She's fine. And so this escape really highlights how vulnerable Violet is on Dragonback, especially if they need to make a getaway quickly. She just simply isn't as agile as the other riders. And so Xaden makes her a present. To be efficient and for no other reason. But he made her a saddle for Taryn, and Taryn helped, and they designed it together, and they made our girl a gift, and it's very sweet. And it's designed where Taryn can put it on himself. And I don't know what that means. Like, does he slip his head and have to, like, shimmy it on? Does he sit up on his pine legs and put it on like a jacket? I don't know. But we just know Taryn can put on the saddle and take it off himself. But either way, she now has a saddle, which, while the saddle itself is leather, the chains are actually made of metal. So even if they're attacked, by another dragon and it catches on fire, the saddle isn't gonna loosen and they're all gonna go flying. It's actually a really cool design. And to take it off, he goes, ha, like a Power Ranger. And so this saddle does give Xaden, like, brownie points in my head, because it is very sweet. It is actually very sweet. It does show that he is, like, thinking about her and thinking about her comfort and her safety without being overbearing. It's cool. I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. And especially because a saddle has never crossed Violet's mind. It's never crossed her mind to ask for accommodation. Her whole thought process is, I just need to get stronger. I just need to be as good as everyone else. I can do it. Even though physically she kind of can't. She is so focused on not being the weakest link, she doesn't realize that there are things that can help her be stronger without diminishing her. You know what I mean? Like, accommodations never cross her mind. And when she sees it for the first time, she does see it as a weakness. She does see it as less than, that she is less than the other riders because she can't do it on her own. But she's the only one who sees it like that. Everyone else is like, yeah, it's a little weird. No one else has done that before, but if it makes you more independent, go off, queen. Which I really appreciate. I appreciate that people point out, no, it's weird. We've never done it before. But if it helps, it helps. I like that mentality. You can see something as different and good, you know? And again, her disability isn't something that needs to be fixed or a challenge to overcome. It's just something that needs to be accommodated. And the saddle came just in time because it's time for the war games! Yay! Because in the midst of all this, like, sexual tension and romantic fighting, there's still a war going on. And so what do? They play capture the flag. Or rather, capture the egg. Because capture the flag is very Percy Jackson coded, very, very YA coded. But what I like is that there's actual war strategy here, because there's a team on the offense, there's a team on the defense, and there's a team that's split. Which is interesting. There's, like, multiple angles. It's not just capture the flag. Which, as someone who knows nothing about war strategy, that sounds about right. And so Violet gets put on the defense, and of course, Jack shows up to be a menace. He's literally just being a menace, trying to kill people, mostly Violet, but she literally sees him, like, from afar, just take someone and throw them off the dragon. That person wasn't doing anything. He was just there. And Jack said, no, fuck you. Just, like, to prove a point. Genuine serial killer behavior. Why do we want him on the special forces? I don't want to know that he's part of, like, my team. Anyway, he tries to kill Liam. And this next part, I have a lot of opinions about, so bear with me. Violet kills Jack. Jack goes after Liam because he knows he's protecting Violet, and in a fit of panic, Violet calls on Andarna just for a moment of time control, because Liam's falling from the sky, just so she can get there in time. It's a half a second thing, and they do. They catch him. Barely, but they catch him, and they're able to put him with his dragon, put him off to safety, and set him aside. But in the heat of the moment, Violet's signet starts to manifest. She has already started channeling, but a signet has not manifested. So she's been burning from the inside out with this power that is building and building and building. And in the heat of the moment, where she sees Jack try to kill one of her best friends, the signet manifests, and she strikes him with lightning. And I fucking loved it. I was rooting for her. I stood up. I was like, yes, yes. I was so happy. And I love the way it's described. Because it's not described as this, like, all powerful, like, this is my moment. It's kind of visceral, where it's dizzying. She thinks that she's gonna die. It's dizzy, it's uncomfortable. It actually kind of reminded me of when I have, like, a dizzy spell. I don't know how to describe this feeling. But, like, I feel dizzy in my head, I can feel my heartbeat all over, and everything kind of goes sideways. It's uncomfortable. And that's kind of what this reminded me like. And afterwards, you know, the game ends, they land, and Violet gets violently sick. She hates that she has killed someone. Taryn, you know, swoops his arm down and covers her and offers her a little bit of privacy as she kind of deals with this moment. This entire time, she's never killed anyone. She's never wanted to kill anyone. She knew that she would have to eventually, but she wanted to hold off as long as possible. She didn't want to kill another cadet. It didn't feel right. And she finds it incredibly upsetting. And Taryn gives her this moment of privacy. She tries to collect herself. And it's upsetting to see, honestly. Like, she doesn't like it. It's not an all-powerful moment. Again, she knew that she would have to kill someone one day, but it's nothing that she's ever been excited about. It was just an inevitability. And now, everyone reacts to this moment differently. Dane coddles her. He literally is, like, cradling her, like, oh my god, you precious baby, you never have to do that again. You never have to hurt anyone ever again if you don't want to. Like, don't worry your pretty little head. Which made me want to barf. But then Xaden went the full other side of the spectrum and was like, no, shut up, do you know what this means? Like, you are powerful. They're never gonna let you sit on the sidelines. Like, you are gonna do so much good. Like, he's practically grabbing and shaking her like, you are powerful, good for you. like, it's meant to be this, like, empowering moment for her. Like, oh, you've come into your power, you've done it. And, like, she should be proud of it because Jack was, like, a piece of shit. Like, Jack was a bully. Like, good for you. Like, you did it. Go off, queen, you know? Which made me feel sick to my stomach for a whole new reason. And the only one, in my opinion, who had a good reaction was Taryn, who he was very respectful of her feelings and still very clinical. He knew that this was something that she would have to do and have to be done. But it's upsetting, and that's not a bad thing. Now, don't yell at me. I know this is supposed to be, like, oh, he sees her for who she is. He's, like, he's on her side. He sees her as this powerful force of nature, and he respects her. And it's like, ew. I know it's a war college. I know it's very militarized. Rebecca Yarros is a self-described second-generation military brat, which, if you don't know what a military brat is, it's a kid whose parent, one or both of their parents, is in the military for their entire career. So not just, you know, the 4 years that a lot of people do, but their entire career to retirement. So they move with their family from base to base. So they're around military all the time. She's very familiar with military things. But guess who else is married to a veteran? Me. So I also get an opinion. So I know that, like, a first kill is not something that is handled with delicacy, because of course it's not. It's literally like, oh, you popped your cherry, congratulations, good for you. You did it, yay. You know, and so Xaden's reaction is not unrealistic, to say the least. And even when reading it, I was like, yeah, no, this makes sense. This is a very logical reaction for him to have. But that doesn't mean that I have to like it. He already was not, like, my guy. But this made me not like him even more. If someone had said this to me after I had killed someone for the first time and I was very, like, uncomfortable and upset about it, I just wouldn't look at them as a romantic partner anymore. Violet doesn't seem as, like, a romantic partner, but she does have a crush on him. She does find him attractive. She is sexually attracted to him. And I just don't find it attractive, personally. And I think that's valid to me no matter what you say. It just didn't sit right with me that this is meant to be an empowering moment. It's a good for her moment. But I think it should only be a good for her moment if she's also proud of herself. And she's not. She's uncomfortable with it. She's not happy about it. And she has to process it. You know what I mean? Like, she can be proud about it later. But in this moment, there's something really uncomfortable about it. And so for him to hold her, like, by her shoulders, being like, you did it. You're useful. Congratulations. Feels kind of weird. But also at the same time, I'm there like, yes, bitch. Kill him. You know what I mean? So, am I any better? Probably not. But I'm not her romantic partner. I'm not building her a saddle to make sure that she's safe. And it was one thing if he had been, like, lighthearted about it, made a joke about it, just to kind of lighten the mood, or if he had been very clinical about it, I mean, like, no, this is what you're supposed to do, you did it, congratulations. And I don't know if this is my own interpretation, but guess what? My interpretation is valid because it's mine. It's the fact that he's, like, excited about it. He's excited that she's powerful. It also doesn't help that his pet name for her is Violence, which only works as a book pet name, by the way. It does not work in person. Violence does not roll off the tongue the way Violet does, or Vi. It just doesn't. But he's called her Violence for a long time. And she has never been comfortable with the idea of being a violent individual. And something about that makes me uncomfortable. That now this moment of empowerment is so intrinsically linked to violence. There's something weird about that. And this wouldn't have bothered me so much. I could have excused this if they didn't have sex for the first time immediately after. Immediately after. Like, I wish I was kidding, but this is, like, the only part of the story where I'm like, this doesn't flow. There's, like, really awkward connective tissue here. It goes, she kills someone. He says, yes, bitch, you're powerful, you're useful, congratulations on your first kill. And then they're fucking. And somewhere in the middle, she's throwing up from being upset by the nature of being the one to kill someone. You know what I mean? Like, there's just... It's really awkward. And, like, I get it. I understand. I see the threads of the story being told, like, the heightened emotions, the adrenaline, you know, your blood is rushing and suddenly things are caving and you just give in. I get it. I see it. It's just a little clumsy, in my opinion. And again, this is a piece of fiction. It's fine. It's not that big a deal. And his reaction is realistic. It makes sense with his character. I just didn't like it. It just didn't sit well with me, personally. And that's fine. And if you loved it, if it's your favorite moment of the book, go off. Go off. We love to see it. I love that for you. I just didn't like it. And if there's someone else out there who also didn't like it and didn't know why, you're not alone. And as far as sex scenes go, it's fun. It's a little over the top. I won't lie, they're breaking furniture left and right. They're standing up against the wall. It's a little over the top. They literally break every single piece of furniture in her room besides the bed. That's just a comedic amount of destruction for a sex scene. So it was like a little over the top. But like, I won't lie, I called my boyfriend after. And this is also the point where we learn that Violet and Xaden can communicate telepathically, which is probably the most fanfiction-y thing about this book, is that they can communicate telepathically. That's old school fanfiction, buddy. I fucking love that. I live for that. It's so funny. But honestly, I think that's why this book works so well. It feels familiar. It's hitting those tropes. It's hitting those moments you know it's gonna hit, but it does it well. You're like, fuck yeah. Talk telepathically to your boyfriend, buddy. Hell yeah. If this came out 8 years ago, the amount of OCs we would see, what type of dragon, what tail would they have, what would your signet be, what would your outfit be, everyone would be wearing corsets. Everyone would be wearing corsets, and there would be some convoluted reason as to why their OC had a dragon scale corset and why it had the dragon scale of the most rare dragon to ever be seen. Absolutely they would be, and it would be so much fun. It would be so good. And some people would see that as a negative. They would see that as childish or immature, and that it would take away from this as a work of fiction, but I disagree. I think that's so fun. It feels familiar and new at the same time. Like, even the fact that she has lightning powers feels so 2016. But I live for it. It's so much fun. Like, she shot out lightning and I screamed. I was like, hell yeah, girly, hell yeah, use your lightning powers. I was scared at one point that she was gonna be a mender. It was mentioned how, like, rare and how useful it is, and I was like, oh, she'll be able to mend herself. Like, I was worried that she was gonna be boiled down to being useful, and that's how she's gonna get around the accessibility point, but no. Our girl is fucking lightning. That's dope as shit. And she can't control it. She is not good at it whatsoever. And now that her signet has finally manifested, she has to work one-on-one with Professor Carr, a really hard-ass professor that has literally killed a kid. We're gonna gloss over that, but he's literally just snapped a kid's neck because their signet was mind reading. But so she's working with him to try to channel her lightning powers and to get better, and our girl just can't do it. Go on, girl, give us nothing. I love that she's just not good at anything. But going back to the fanfiction angle, now we have our Yule Ball event. There's a huge party to celebrate the anniversary of the end of the Giant Rebellion. You know, the one where now all the kids that are orphaned and tattooed permanently for the rest of their lives, the one where their parents were executed? Yeah, that one. Let's go to the party. And I haven't mentioned this, but all those kids that are marked, they have to go into the Riders Quadrant. They do not get a choice. It's part of a punishment for their parents' actions. The idea being they'll either die trying to be a rider or they'll rise to the ranks and be Navir's most powerful tools, essentially. And the president is, like, kind of confused as to why those kids who don't have a choice in the matter aren't coming to celebrate their parents' death. They're like, oh, that's weird. That's suspicious. Why aren't they here? Forming a rebellion, children? No, they're just sad. But Violet goes. She dresses up all pretty. She has her leg out. Liam dresses up and he goes with her, and only once they're there, Violet realizes, ooh, this is really uncomfortable for you, Liam. Thank you for coming with me, but let's get the fuck out of here. I'm so sorry for bringing you here. Which I do appreciate that she, like, realizes, oh, I made a faux pas. Let me fix it, and let's get out of here. And so she runs off to find Xaden, and she finds him sitting alone on the parapet like a sad little boy. And this is his dramatic emo moment. He's sitting there all alone, and he's sad, and this is where Violet learns that he's actually the oldest marked one. He remembers more than anyone about his parents and their friends, and his childhood, and he's the one that actually made the deal for the kids to be spared, because the kids were going to be executed. He's the one that stepped up and took responsibility for them. And on his back, he has lashings. I don't know if it's lashings, I think it is, like whip marks. But he has scars on his back, 107 marks one for each kid that he has taken responsibility for to make them upstanding citizens in exchange to keeping them alive. He's literally the reason why they're given a chance to live, a chance to prove themselves. And that's why they act like they owe him their life, because they do. And then they fuck again. I died. If there's one thing I've learned, is that I need to invest in a second camera battery. Where was I? Oh yeah, sex. And personally, I think this scene's a lot better than the first one. It's a little bit more funner, they're a little bit more lighthearted, the transition was a little bit more seamless, it makes more sense. It was a lot funner in general, which is weird to say considering they just came from, like, him traumatically telling his backstory, you know what I mean? So to say it's funner feels weird, but that's the best way I can describe it. And so before we get into, like, the last bit of this, I was going to do an orange dessert. I have frozen orange slices in the fridge, and I was going to blend them and make, like, an orange sorbet, you know, in honor of our girl almost killing someone using orange slices. I thought it'd be fun, but it's really cold. I was supposed to record this video a month ago. It wasn't nearly as cold, and I'm a baby, so we're not going to do that. But, you know what I do have? Carbohydrated electrolyte powder drink thing. It's orange flavored. Yay! So while I'm not gonna eat the Tootsie Roll, I will drink this. I think that's kind of fun. So they go back to his room. They start messing around, having a fun time, and they get interrupted. What do I do? Oh my god! That's gross. So mid-pump, they get interrupted, which is, like, awkward not just because they're in the middle of something, but it's also awkward because Zayden's her immediate superior. Violet has been really aware she can sleep with anyone who's not in her direct line. So, like, that's also why she, like, didn't want to sleep with Dane, because he is her immediate superior, versus, like, Zayden's, like, her upper superior. You know what I mean? It's just, like, you don't want to seem like you're sleeping your way to the top. It wasn't a light this is dangerous. There wasn't a light decision. Feels incredibly dangerous. There has to be a better way to hold this than, like, holding it like a claw. Okay, let me do that. But no, so they're called to formation, and they have to go. Like, it's an emergency. So there's tension. Everyone has 30 minutes to pack. Rhea, our number one main girl, when they come to formation, Rhea notices that Violet is not wearing her jacket. Her jacket says wing leader on it, because she's a dumb bitch and grabbed the wrong jacket. Terrified to do this. But yeah, Rhea is, like, the only real one, and she immediately notices Violet's jacket, and, you know, she throws her arm around her, casually covers her chest, because Dane walks over, and they're like, ooh, this is gonna be really awkward, because if they're fighting over her in a pretend emergency, they're gonna fight over her in a real emergency. Which, this isn't a real emergency. They come to find out that it is just the last game of the war games for the year. But, real or fake, if there's one thing we know about Dane and Zayden, they're gonna fight over Violet. And I have a bag of juice. So they're being sent on a mission as if it is a real life emergency. You know, they're following to the things that they've been taught, etc., etc. And Dane is upset because Violet actually ends up paired with Zayden. Zayden calls Violet to be a part of his team. And Dane is like, well, she's part of my squad. And Zayden's like, well, I'm in charge, which is why she shouldn't be sleeping with him, because he is in charge. But that's another discussion for another day. Because she literally can't say no. She can't say no, I won't go with you, because that's her wing leader. And she doesn't, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Anyway, everyone heads off. Our girl goes to Athabine. That's where they're sent. I'm gonna pour this into a cup. I'm not drinking out of the bag. I'm tempted to, like, cut a corner and sip it like a little gerbil. I have technology. Look at that! There's, like, sludge. That's weird. This is the first thing I've actually been grossed out by in the MRE, I'll be completely honest with you. Everything else is like, oh, like a little snack. This is actually kind of gross. Should I put glitter in this? So Zayden pulls her on her team, and off they go to Aberdeen. And on the way, they stop to, and I have orange glitter. Should I do red? I'm gonna do red. But on the way there, they stop to water their dragons, because their dragons can only go so far. And again, the humans aren't the ones in charge. The dragons go, I'm tired, they have to stop. I'm thirsty, they're gonna stop. But of course, these two horny bitches immediately start making out and getting touchy-feely. Which, apparently everyone who's there, like, knows that they're, like, an item, you know what I mean? They've, like, declared their love for one another on the parapet, that they're, you know, fated to be, what have you. Everyone knows. It's still now is not the time, guys. It's still inappropriate. Now, you're in the middle of a war game that is meant to simulate the actual war that you guys are fighting. Now is not the time. Stop trying to fuck at every given moment. But this is where shit hits the fan. Because they get cornered by Griffin Riders. And so this entire time I've been talking about this giant war that Naveer is going up against. Well, who are their opponents? It's the Griffin Riders. They're the people actively attacking their borders, actively trying to win back the land. Now, they are not as powerful as the Dragon Riders. The dragons have such a power point. Like, they just have so much magic that they're in control and they're protecting their, like, their home base, which is why the dragons partnered with people and blah, 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 blah. But that's not the most important thing here. Griffin Riders have appeared. That's all you really need to know. The glitter is not mixing with this drink well. Yeah, so the Griffin Riders have appeared, and literally while making out with Violet, she learns that Xaden's been working with the Griffin Riders this entire time, and she feels betrayed. How could he do this? He's on the wrong side. He is part of the rebellion. He's just like his dad. Blah, 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 blah. And not just that, apparently all the marked ones are working with them. And Violet lifts her head from where she was making out with Xaden and realizes everyone there is a marked one. Liam, Imogen, the other one, and of course, Xaden. And they were all in on it. They all knew. Everyone except for Violet. So Violet has a very high moral standing, and part of it is because she was trained to be a scribe. She is very familiar with history, and she's very familiar with what the concept of Naveer, the things for which they stand for. She is more familiar with it than most people, to help, to protect, and all those things. So this betrayal cuts deep. She feels like she's dying. And I don't blame her, honestly. Like, this is the one thing that was, like, kind of spoiled for me, that he betrays her at one point. But I wasn't sure what it was or how it played out. And part of it, I was like, how is Yaros going to make this betrayal actually count for something? And if you've noticed, I haven't taken a sip yet because this drink scares me. I did put glitter in it to try to make me feel better. But the texture is weird. It still smells gross. Oh my god. No, I'm not gonna drink that. That's disgusting. That tastes like it's gone bad. We're gonna go back to this one because this one's pretty. Look how pretty it is. And it turns out that all the marked ones were supplying the Griffins with not only information, but also weapons. And again, I kind of knew. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I wasn't sure if it was actually going to, like, hit. So it didn't take me by surprise that he betrayed her. Because also, like, we're at the climax of the book. Something has to happen. But a twist on a twist. Xaden is supplying the Griffin Riders with weapons and things because they're fighting the Venin. Now, the Venin shouldn't exist. It's the same big bad from Violet's book, the Book of Fables. Things that she thought were stories and fables. She thought they were allegories for something bigger that happened in history. But no, they're real. Venin are just real. So she's having a rough time processing anything at the moment, which, like, I don't blame her. The guy that you finally start to trust then suddenly betrays you. These things that you thought were fake are suddenly real and also a very real threat and coming to kill you. It's a lot. But not only that, turns out Dane also betrayed her. He read her mind before she left. So, turns out where Xaden's group is being sent is not part of the war games. It's just part of the war. They're going to be sacrificial because there's only 5 of them. They're inexperienced and they're going to a town that is about to be attacked by the Venin. Now, Dane knew this. He read Violet's mind, saw that she slept with Xaden, and let her go off to her death. Without her knowledge, he grabbed her face without her realizing, and read her mind. In a sneaky way. So she's betrayed by her best friend, the guy she's in love with, by her country, and something that shouldn't exist is suddenly real and on its way to kill her. How this girl is processing anything at this point is beyond me. And they learn that this War Games mission is a real mission because Xaden literally gets a letter from General Colonel Altos. Dane's dad. I don't know how to say his name. That guy. Literally saying, survive if you can, XOXO Gossip Girl. So, like, it's stressful. And I thought this was done really well, because the book fable thing keeps coming up over and over again, because it's important to like Violet's own history from her dad, and all these things that we've been hearing about, these attacks that are getting more frequent, that are coming to the borders, everything like that, all those things have been building throughout the book to suddenly come to a peak, layered on top with a betrayal, is like actually kind of dope as hell. I really liked this reveal. I was stressed. I was stressed. And Violet has to make the decision. Does she leave? Does she stay? Does she believe Xaden was doing the right thing, for the wrong thing for the right reasons? And the deciding factor is whether or not she believes Xaden, whether or not she's on his side, whether or not she trusts him. There are people in danger, and she can't turn her back on them. There is a real town with real people who are about to be attacked, and riders don't run from conflict. And so whether they like it or not, whether they are ready or not, they go into battle. And again, this is another moment where I'm like, yes, bitch, slay. And I am rooting for her to kill people. I love it. This video's taken hours to film. If you can't tell by the change in lighting and the change of day, it's taken so long. And so we're thrust into battle. Our heroes are clearly outnumbered. There are more Wyvern than there are Venin. They've never seen Wyvern before. They don't know how to kill them. They don't know how to kill Venin. Wyvern are dragons without the front legs. They just have the wings, and the wings are the hands. But there's a lot of them. And they don't need riders to be controlled. One Venin can control many, many Wyvern. So it's terrifying. And Violet doesn't have control of her powers. She is thrust into battle and she does not feel ready. And there's never a moment of, oh, you'll be able to do it when it really matters. No, she still can't do it. She gets more and more frustrated and more disheartened because people start dying. Liam dies in Violet's arms. Him and his dragon, I forgot their name, I'm so sorry. They still go to protect Violet. They still dive in the way to protect Terran, to protect Violet from one of the Venin who are just poisoning people left and right. They literally take a knife for our girl. And Violet is distraught because this happens literally after a huge fight. When Violet realized that all the marked ones were in on the secret, sure, she can understand Xaden betraying her, but Liam felt like a different betrayal. You know, she looks at him like, were you ever really my friend? Like, how could you do this to me? And it is painful. And now, desperately trying to hold him down on to Terran so he doesn't go flying, as his dragon is slowly dying beneath them, and so he is also slowly dying. It is emotional. It hurts so good. Oh my god. And Violet does her best to get them to safety. She wants to protect him as much as possible, but she can't. She's not strong enough. She can't even fireman carry him so he can die next to his dragon. And he is begging, just get me to her, just get me to her. And she can't do it. Xaden feels her. She tells him that Liam is down. She feels a whole new level of heartbreak as Xaden's heart break, and he manages to get away from the front line to come pick up they're technically cousins, but to pick up his brother and to drop him by his dragon so he can rest in peace. And I cried. I sobbed. And if you're thinking, man, I really want to read this book, but this is a huge spoiler. No, this is one of the scenes that really elevates the book. I think it's worth reading, even if you know what's going to happen. It is still worth a read. It's written really well. It hurts real good, and it's not a surprise twist that Liam dies. It's a slow build. You see it coming, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. Ugh. I'm so sad that Liam is dead. I loved him so much. And now, naturally, like me, Violet is out for blood. She wants to kill everyone. She had to watch one of her best friends die. And she fucking gets it. And Darna, who's been here the entire time, I haven't mentioned her, she like snuck in and flew with them on the mission. She wasn't supposed to, but she's there. She has been hiding this entire time. She comes out and she's like, let me at him, coach, put me in. And they do. And only with the three of them, and Darna, Terran, and Violet, are they able to take down one witch Venin. Which thankfully gives them enough of an upper hand. It takes out a bunch of the fuck off big ass wyverns, and they're able to win. Win is a very loose term. They're able to kind of chase them away. It's not victorious. And our girl gets poisoned. She gets stabbed at the last moment. And now, I'm sitting there like, Rebecca, there's only a few pages left, Rebecca. What's going on? And Violet is slowly being poisoned. She's fading in and out of it. She can't feel Terran. She can't feel Andarna. She can't feel Xaden. It's just her alone in her thoughts. And she can hear Xaden being like, I got you, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of you, blah, blah, blah. I need you to trust me, blah, blah, blah. But then she blacks out. And that's it. The last chapter is from Xaden's point of view. And he is sitting next to her, and all I can think about how she is going to hate him, she's not going to trust him, how could he do this to her, how can he bring her here, we don't super know where here is yet, but he had no choice, he had to save her, and he's going to do everything in his power with every breath he has to win back her trust. It is so melodramatic. We love to see it. We love a dramatic bitch. And Violet wakes up, she doesn't trust him, naturally. I think she has, like, the blanket wrapped around her, like a scandalized Victorian woman, which I think was really funny. But she doesn't trust him. He's trying his best, and he's like, I need to know if you're in with me or not. Whether you trust me or not. Are you on my side? Can I trust you? She says yes. And she's like, where are we? He points outside, and she sees the city that should not exist. She sees Xaden's hometown, which should be burnt to the ground, slowly being rebuilt by strangers. And not only that, but she asks, how did you save me? And there's a knock at the door, and who else enters but her dead brother, Brennan. Dun, dun, dun! Honestly, I didn't see that twist coming. I thought he was fucking dead. I liked that he was a character who wasn't there, but we still knew him because of the Book of Brennan, because of the legacy that he left behind. I thought that was interesting. It's one of her driving forces. I thought that was fucking cool. And then he fucking shows up, and I'm like, okay. I saw a lot of the twists coming. I thought I saw a lot of the plot points before they happened. I made little jokes in the margins of my book as I did it, as like a little inside joke to me. Did not see Brennan coming a mile away. That was dope. That's a good twist. And that's where it ends. Luckily, we now have The Iron Flame. It is out. I still have not read it in preparation for this video. I'm gonna read it after this. But my camera's about to fucking die again. I'm going through it so quickly. It's fun. The book is fun. It's good. It's not perfect, but it's so much fun, and I do not regret reading it. And if you're thinking about reading it, I think it's worth a read. Even if just to say when book 5 comes out, that you've read it. You know what I mean? Oh, I was there at the beginning. I didn't read all of them, but I at least read the first one. I was there on the hype train. I think that's kind of fun. I can't guarantee I'll like the series by book 5. I can't even guarantee I'll like book 2. But book 1, Fourth Wing, I think is fun. I think it's a flag to what is coming in the literary world, I hope. If anything, just because imitation is the biggest form of flattery. I can see a lot more dragon books coming. I can see a lot more books with... We already have a lot of books with diverse casts. So, like, that's already great. We've already, like, jumped that hurdle. But more disability rep becoming more mainstream. I could see that happening just from the popularity of this book. So whether you like it or not, you can't say that it didn't make an impact on the literary world. And I think that's dope as hell, honestly. And there are books with disability rep, not saying that there aren't. But I can't think of any that are so mainstream and so popular and kicked up such a fuss the way that Fourth Wing did. If you know any, please put them down below, because I would love to read them. I'd love to make a list of things that have invisible illness, disability representation. I would love that. Please. Tell me. I don't think I'm gonna run out and get a dragon tattoo like some girlies did. That's not me. But I think it's cool. I would give it 4.5 wings out of 5. It's not a revolutionary book, but that's what I think makes it so revolutionary. So I'm recording this on my boyfriend's phone because I'm not waiting another 30 minutes for my camera battery to charge. If you have made it this far, let me know. Did you read Fourth Wing? Are you just here for the shits and gigs? How did you rate it? What was your favorite part? Did you feel weird about the "you're powerful, now let's fuck" moment? Am I the only one? Let me know. Did this book change your life? Do you have a dragon tattoo? Do you need to pee? I do. And did this satiate your need to know if you haven't read it, but you're morbidly curious and have not seen the 10 million other videos about this book? Did this satiate your craving? Let me know anything. Let me know what you're having for breakfast. Tell me every fleeting thought you have. I'm a nosy bitch. Thanks for hanging out with me. Okay, bye.